What's up, everybody? It helps to turn on your mic, right, and the camera. Welcome. My name is Ruel Gaviola, and this is Top Three at Three. I want to say thank you to everyone for hanging out today. This is, I guess, day two of Spiel, and we've got things happening everywhere online, not only with Spiel but BGG Con. And today's stream is going to be over there on BGG's Twitch as well. So thank you, BGG, for partnering with me today. I see Game Jedi 84 in the house. Joe Byer, thank you. I believe that you see Lincoln as well. Thank you all for hanging out. I'm super excited about today's show because I'm going to be joined by two of the tanks from the Board Game Barrage podcast. And if you haven't listened to Board Game Barrage yet, I mean, I feel like they're one of the most popular podcasts out there. But if you haven't listened to them before, please check them out. They're tremendous. And maybe I'm not biased. I mean, I liked them before I knew they were based in LA, but they are, here in Southern California, the LA area. And of course, I'm repping LA because we've got a huge game tonight, folks. Game 3 of the World Series, Dodgers and that other team, the Rays, they're tied up 1-1. So we need all the good mojo happening. So shout out some Dodger love in chat if you can. I do want to mention that today's episode is brought to you by our friends at Crokinole Canada, crokinole.ca. They are a company up in Canada that produces nothing but crokinole boards. And if you saw our streams a couple of weeks ago, Michelle, Lauren, and I played some one-on-one matches of crokinole. If you have never played it before, it's the greatest dexterity game ever. Seriously, it's tremendous. Like all the other dexterity games I enjoy. I like dexterity games. They're fun, but Crokinole is the best, and Crokinole Canada has amazing boards. We played on their Royal Red tournament board, thanks to their sponsorship. We have one of these boards now, and it's awesome. They are, I'm not going to lie, they're not cheap. I mean, this is not a game like a board game where you pay, 30, 40 bucks and get a game. No, this is an investment. It's it's bigger in Canada than the US, but it's one of those games that it's like an heirloom, right? It's something that you pass along from generation to generation. There's, I read stories now that I'm all like obsessed with crokinole. I read stories of how like grandfathers, handcrafted crokinole boards, and it's been passed down generation to generation. It's really cool. If you're interested, check it out at Crokinole Canada. I've got their logo there, got the website there. Want to shout out also our friend Holly Chu at Holly Chu Illustration. She's done all the artwork and emotes here on the channel, so please check out her website at hollychuart.com. That's CHIU art.com. CHIU, yeah, Chu. We've got I love this topic that we're going to talk about today. We are talking about the top 3 values in board games, and this actually started off as, if you listen to podcasts, the Board Game Barrage crew did an episode, their most recent episode, about how they would start their board game collection. If they lost all their board games and they had $100 US, what would they start with, and how many games could you fit into that $100 range? And they post on Twitter, and a bunch of people just start talking about what games they would buy first and stuff, and that just I tweeted as well, and then I started thinking, well, why not? Let's talk about the best values that we can find in board games, right? Like what games give you the most bang for your buck. And we're going to approach it in different ways, different perspectives. And I'm excited to talk to them about this. Let me see if I've got any business. I want to shout out everyone from BGG coming on over. Thank you for watching. My name is Ruel Gaviola. I host Twitch streams here under Tabletop Tonight, which is Monday through Thursday, 7 p.m. Pacific. I also do different things under the Rolling with Ruel show stream, also here on Twitch, but also on Facebook Live and YouTube. I'm pretty much, I do all the things. I love experimenting with different formats. I'm still learning all this stuff, and it's been a lot of fun. Met a lot of cool people, and it's like board games, right? Like everyone's welcome. I mean, I've always had a really good experience at the tabletop, and I'm having a great experience with streaming and creating content. So thank you so much, friends. Always appreciate it. Got a Game Jedi 84. Yes, you have got the right attitude, my friend. Go Dodgers. Thank you so much. Mrs. Gab 2020 is in chat. Hey, that's my wife. She's actually working right now in the other office. We've got 2 offices now in our home because, that's how you do it these days and during the COVID era. I am in the Gaviola Game Library /office/ Everything else just goes in this room. And then Michelle has converted our daughter's room and daughter's former room into a second office so she can teach from there. She is a teacher. So shout out to all the teacher friends out there in chat. Enough of my jibber jabber. Let's bring these guys on. They're awesome, and I've been fortunate to hang out with them at. I think the last time we hung out was at Dice Tower West. So remember when we used to have conventions like way back in the pre-COVID ages? I think the last game I played with them was Nova Luna, which was I love that game. So maybe we'll talk about that later. But let me bring the guys on here. Let me do one more thing here. All the technology folks still learning this stuff. Thinker Themers in the house. Thanks for joining us. And okay. So Board Game Barrage is a podcast about board games, the latest hotness, and how to have fun with your friends, even when you're losing. It's also a community of thousands of board gamers. I am very pleased to bring on Neilan and Mark, the orange and green tanks. Hello, gentlemen. Hello. There you are.
Hey,
I hope the mics are working. I hope the cameras are working, but
yeah.
Are we good to go?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, great. You guys can hear me?
Yes.
Awesome.
Thank you so much for joining me, Neilan and Mark. I really appreciate your time. I know it's a tough time because it's the middle of the day. People are taking lunch breaks and everything. But thank you again for joining me. How are both of you doing? How are things holding up during the COVID era for you?
Good. I mean, the Lakers doing well and Dodgers playing tonight have buoyed my spirits. You would not get that commentary from Neilan or Kellen. I'd have you know they're not big sports
Mark,
fans.
you're so wrong. All of the sports happenings are buoying my heart just as much as everyone else's.
Neilan didn't even get up at 4 a.m. to watch South Africa play in the Rugby World Cup, and I did.
What?
I did.
4 a.m?
Yeah.
That wasn't going to happen.
Okay.
Mark, I'm assuming I know how passionate you are about sports. You're the one that would get up at 2, 3 a.m. to watch the World Cup games, correct?
Yes, absolutely.
Nice.
I routinely get those hours to watch Liverpool play. So for soccer.
Oh, that's right. Yes, and by the way, congratulations, right?
Yeah.
Liverpool. Yeah, well done, gentlemen. I want to, I'm really excited about this topic. You brought this up on Twitter, then the latest episode, just talking about values in board games. But before we get to that, can you both just give me a history of the show? Like, how did it start? I mean, what are your relationships with each other? And just go from there.
Yeah, I feel like we would be remiss to say that like the genesis of the show is like Kellen, who's not present. It's largely his brainchild. I remember when it was just a massive Instagram account and Kellen pitching around business cards at Gen Con. But like from that point on, we all met at a game night and Kellen had the idea to like turn it into this bigger thing of like the podcast. We were just like, we would play games and just chat about games. And I think that the way that we would talk about them, in sort of a feisty, very competitive way, I think that we all just got the sense that people would want to listen to that. And I think that's kind of the vibe that we've tried to like keep up is, 4 friends playing and talking about games on the regular.
Yeah, I completely agree. It was game nights, and we would, we'd mix around with other people, but whenever we played each other, just the commentary was especially interesting or feisty or whatever, and it just sort of grew from there. And Kellen had the idea, and here we are.
Yeah, that's what I love about the show is, that camaraderie, right? You can tell you're very comfortable with each other. You're friends. I was just under the assumption you had known each other for like decades. Like, and that's how it just seems so friendly. And friendly, and you have that really fun, talking a little bit of trash to each other, but in, a fun way. Like, how long have y'all actually known each other?
Probably 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, I think it's probably, depending on whom it is, it goes up to maybe like 2 years prior to the podcast would be my guess. So we've been almost 3 years running at this point. So yeah, I think 3 to 4 years seems about right.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, it's, again, when I started listening to it, I think I've been listening for the last 2 years. I just assumed y'all had been, friends for forever. It just seems like it. This is my friend Book of Nerds says spicy banter. That's what I love about the Board Game Barrage right there. Spicy banter. Now, as far as, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, is Book of Nerds the person that played Twilight 4 with us?
Yes, he is.
Okay,
John Gonzalez. Yes.
John. Okay. Yeah. I thought.
Mark was.
You taught me my first game of Twilight.
That's right. And
that's right.
I was a great teacher because you won that game, Mark, right?
Right. No, that's the only reason I won is I had such a firm hold of the rules that I was good to go.
We always, in our game groups, we always say, if you're a good teacher, that means you're going to lose the game. So I went into that game knowing fully, I was fully expecting to lose. Neilan, are you a fan of Twilight Imperium? I think that's the question I wanted to ask you.
You know what? I think theoretically, I've only actually played it once, and I remember that game took a really long time. I know that's part of the experience of Twilight.
Yeah.
I have to say that my impression of other Space 4X games like Eclipse kind of sat with me a little bit stronger than Twilight, but I need to go back to it because the last time I played it was the 3rd edition, obviously. I've not touched TI4 at all.
Yeah, and I remember, I do remember when Mark talked about it afterwards on your podcast, and he hit on so many good points about that game that I love, and it's just one of those things you're talking about how it has all these different mechanisms, and yet in one package, It's just a fully epic series. But I don't know why on this top three I always end up talking about Twilight Imperium. People who regularly watch this probably sick of it, so sorry, folks. Let's get back to our friends from Board Game Barrage. What about playing games nowadays? Obviously, we don't have open game nights anymore. Do you have a small enough bubble where you're still getting together in person, or do you do things online now?
We're getting together very rarely and always in socially distant with all masked and everything. But those are few and far between. Initially, when things first started up and I was first introduced to Tabletopia and Tabletop Simulator, I was really, really jazzed. I saw it as this I'm gonna have all this time now and all these games are at my fingertips, but for some reason it just hasn't translated for me. I still play every once in a while online, but there's something missing, and there's something lost in that experience for me. But we've gotten together a couple times to play, but
yeah.
And that was that was definitely my experience early on as well. I feel like I struggled in the same way that Mark's describing to feel like I was getting enough out of the Tabletopia and the Tabletop Simulator experience. That said, I actually feel like in the more recent months, so in the last 2 or 3 months, I've been embracing it a little bit more and more because it's to some extent I have no choice, and I've accepted that to some extent. So I've been playing a lot of stuff on Board Game Arena, not so much live sessions like a Tabletopia or a Tabletop Simulator, but Board Game Arena, the more asynchronous experiences. I've been doing that quite a bit.
Yeah, I struggle with those platforms as well. It's just I think it's me just trying to figure out how to flip over cards and not throw cubes across the table and stuff. That's most of my experience. But then Board Game Arena makes it really easy to play a game, But I agree. It's really, it's a nice substitute, but it's not the real thing. It just really isn't. Yeah. Now, let's get into this topic. So can you give us just a little background about how you all came up with the $100 board game collection topic?
I don't know if there's a really good Genesis story. We're 150 episodes now, so we sort of we take what we can get. We sort of just brainstorm and try to figure something out to talk about. And what if somebody has an idea, if something springs to mind, we toss it around in our chat, and this was just something we thought might be interesting. And there were different iterations. We were thinking about, whether we were going to do $100 that we would share, a Board Game Barrage $100 list. But then, as is our wont, we just went as feisty as possible and had one person do it and then took shots at them and then passed it around, sort of.
I also know that there were some early versions of this floating around in our Discord channel, just among some of our users. So it's something that sort of comes up a lot, of the idea of if you had this chunk of money, what would be that collection? I think reducing the amount to $100 just forces you to make so many hard cuts and really, really value what you're getting in a way that made that, I think, quite an interesting discussion. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a great discussion, especially on Twitter. I remember when I made my list, I had 2 right away, and then the other 2, I was trying to fill out the other $50 or whatever. I was like, this is brutal. There's just no way. I want to, give me $1,000, right? But 100, oh my gosh. So that was really great, folks. If you haven't listened to the episode, please check them out. BoardGameBarrage.com. We're gonna get right into our list. We're doing our top 3, and we each, we always cheat. We have to have honorable mentions. So it's actually top 5 if you want to get technical about it. But folks, in chat, please share with us what your top board game values are. I'm going to start, and then we'll go to Neilan and finish up with Mark. I'm going to start with the honorable mentions. My honorable mentions are Cartographers and Just One. I feel like, well, I'll start with Just One. Just One is a party game. It's a cooperative game. It's a word game, but it's a party game, right? And I feel like, I think it was like $20 or $25. I've gotten my money's worth and then some from this game. It's always a hit, no matter where I bring it. Family, friends, non-gaming friends, and then also gamer friends. For the gamer friends, you know, we use it as a filler, either at the start or end of the night. And then for non-gaming friends, it's really easy to get into, and families as well. I mean, I like playing this with my families because we all have, like, you know, different age ranges, you know, from my little nieces and nephews up to the adults. And it's always funny to see what people say for the certain words. So that's mine. Just One. Also, Cartographers. I put that on the list because I've been playing a lot of it lately, and it's one of my top 3 roll and writes. And I just played the Cartographers Heroes expansion. It's a tremendous roll and write for $25. I mean, you're going to get a ton of play out of it. So I'll turn it over to Neilan. Mark, have you had any experiences with either of these games, gentlemen?
Yeah, I love both of those games. Cartographers, I was so, I felt like I was burnt out, and I am to some extent, of the whole roll and write, flip and write thing. But Cartographers, I think, does enough interesting things to make it one of the leaders in that pack. So I'm always interested to play it. And I Just One is a fantastic party game. It's, you know, one of those classic, like, hasn't this game been around forever? Like, it must have been invented because it's just so simple years ago. But it's, you know, whenever I brought it out, especially with non-gamers, it's just been a complete hit. It's fantastic.
Yep.
I love the part of Cartographers, just like handing your page over to someone else and like seeing how much devastation they can do, and that's brilliant. I feel like everyone's list needs a game like Just One, like this sort of very light party game, right? And I think that Just One is one of the best. It's so easy to explain to like pretty much anyone, and it's always going to be a funny time. It's a great choice.
Absolutely. Thank you. Okay. Neilan, speaking of your honorable mentions, you have 2 of them as well.
Yeah. So I guess right off the bat, like it's like, so some games I feel like or almost like lock-ins for this list that I wanted to like deviate a little bit from. So I'm not going to mention them, even though I'm mentioning them now, but like something like a Code Names or a Just One is a great pick. But the ones I went for my honorable mentions are Pictomania, which is one of my absolute favorite party games. This is a Pictionary sort of variant that is very high stress. You are drawing and guessing at the same time, and it's so good. It's so good. Every time I compile my top 50 list, I just move Pictomania higher and higher. It's excellent. The other honorable mention I had is Letter Jam, which was a game from last year, which it kind of blew me away with how novel it is as a cooperative word-based game, because it's got just enough of, you know, that feeling when you feel really smart because you come up with a perfect prompt of like, okay, this word is going to give everyone, it's going to be great. Everyone's going to be able to get a letter. It's going to be perfect. It's a fun long word. Like, that feels good. But that coupled with this cooperative element and this sort of puzzle deduction element, it's so smart for a game it's not, I wouldn't say it's like trivial to explain, but it's relatively rules light. It's a great new game.
Yeah, it's got that whole like Hanabi thing, right? Where everyone can see what you have, but you can't. And
exactly.
Right?
Yeah, so it's like everyone has one letter card that's facing away from them, and the whole idea is to figure out what your letter is by other people giving you words that use the table's letters, basically.
Yeah. And I like you were saying, like it's really clever. And like I remember the last game I played, I thought I was being really clever picking the perfect word, and this happens. It's happened a few times when I played, and I thought for sure, yeah, this is it, and no one got it. You know,
right.
I was like, come on, you know?
And that's so devastating. We were like, oh my god, it's right there. You must be able to see it. Yeah.
Now, Pictomania, I haven't played yet, but everyone that tells, they rave about this game.
Oh my gosh, it's so good. It's so good.
Why has it flown under the radar? Or at least for me, I don't know. Maybe it's.
I don't know. I feel like maybe the first edition was maybe a bit too big, a bit too expensive to justify it. Maybe. But the new second edition, I'm not as much of a fan for like minor rule changes. But the thing I will absolutely credit them for is they got the box size down, they got the price down, and this is now like a $15 game. that I think that the setup is slightly easier in the new edition as well. So I think that if you hadn't played Pictomania or maybe passed it over because it was too expensive previously, this new second edition is absolutely the way to go. Like it's just so unlike other Pictionary games because of how high stress it is, because of this element of it being a race of like, I'm going to quickly, frantically do something and then guess 5 other people's at the tables. It's really smart.
So it's real time the entire time.
Yeah,
you're just drawing and guessing.
exactly. Yeah, it's basically it's kind of like, you have score chips in the center of the table, and the fastest person to finish will grab the highest one. So there's a very tense competitive race edge to it.
Awesome. Okay, so as I pull up a window or another tab for to buy this game. Thanks, Neilan. Mark, what about yourself? Yeah.
My honorable mentions?
Yeah, please.
Yes.
Or unless you have any thoughts on what
oh no, I mean, I will say that I absolutely love Pictomania. I love it, but I think the reason that it may have flown under the radar is I think there are some people who will not like it because it sort of wears the guise of a party game, but it's like stressful. So you bring out this game and it looks like Pictionary, and then it's like everybody's screaming. So it's like it can throw people off. It can be not everybody's cup of tea.
I mean, I know, for instance, like Kellen in our group is not a big fan of it for that exact reason of it being too stressful for a party game.
Right.
Oh, interesting. Okay. That's I mean, that sounds like my jam. I'm totally sold. And Mark, your honorable mention, sir.
Yes. So I picked The Crew, which is a new game. It's a cooperative trick-taking game. Again, sort of like Just One, the idea, it's like an idea that you feel has been around, but it hasn't. What The Crew is so it's like a trick taker, but everybody's working together to accomplish a goal. And there are 50 goals, 50 missions in the rules handbook. And you're trying to sort of like accomplish whatever the mission is. So one mission may be to, have one player play their a certain card or a certain color at a certain time in the game, and you're sort of working together. You can't communicate. It's very limited communication, but you're trying to have like certain people win tricks and use the cards you've seen, use this very limited communication setup to just work together to get these tricks won in a certain order. It's just absolutely fantastic. We played it all together at Dice Tower West, and just absolutely loved it.
Yeah, that is one of my top trick-taking games. It's so well done and just so unique. And yeah, I love how it's cool because it starts off as, basically, if you've never played a trick taker before, this teaches you, right? I mean, just very simple, very basic, but then it gets to those really hard missions, which are like, how are we going to complete this?
Yeah, exactly. And then speaking of high pressure party games, my other choice is True Colors. True Colors is a game that is actually from the 90s, but like Pictomania, just had a second edition come out, a nice glossy second edition. True Colors is it's a game that you only want to play with people that you feel close to, because otherwise it can be uncomfortable and cause sort of hard feelings. What happens in True Colors is there is a card that brings up a scenario or asks something about the people in the room, and then you have everybody's assigned a color, and then you cast 2 ballots. If you think the question applies to one person in particular, you cast 2 ballots of their color into the secret ballot. So if I think, if Neilan's orange and I think Neilan is definitely this person, I would cast 2 orange ballots. But if I think it could be Neilan, it could be Kellen, I'd cast one of Neilan's colors, one of Kellen's colors. And then the ballots are all shaken up. Nobody knows who's voted for who, and they're revealed. And there's a scoring system that you throw out instantly, because it's all about like the communication and finding out where you stand in your friends groups and stuff like that. So it can be tough, but I think it's like those situations where if you're playing with people that you really feel comfortable with, you really know you can be vulnerable with, you really can sort of like grow together in a way that other games, they don't set out to do, and they just are incapable of. This is like, it's really brings up a lot of discussion, a lot of laughs, a lot of screaming. We had a getaway, last year, and to end the night, it was like, 12 midnight, 1 o'clock, and we decided to play True Colors, and we ended up playing it for like a couple hours, and like, you know, Neilan and Kellen are arguing about who is the guy you'd call for tech problems, and we had just like a whole bunch of like different conversations going on. It was just it's great, but it's like very specific. It's a very like, you know, you have to be with, again, people you love and can feel comfortable with and are into this sort of thing. So for that group, for that situation, it's, you know, unmatched to me.
Is True Colors still in print, or
it wasn't in print? It wasn't in print for a decade probably or more, and then just I think last year or the year before, a new edition was released, and so it's in print again. I think you can get it at Target, for example. So.
Oh, nice. Yeah, and you again, you say yelling and screaming. I'm like, oh, okay, this seems like something my family would enjoy.
Sure.
So.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Awesome. If you could just hold 1 second, gentlemen, I've got something happening here. I don't know if y'all are familiar with Twitch, but we have raiders coming in. So this is another channel has raided our channel. And in honor of that, it is, I believe it's Board Game Staff. So Board Game Staff, thank you, Board Game Staff, for the raid. Much appreciated. I want to welcome all the raiders. I get to put on the raiding hat. So this hat comes off. And this hat comes on. Welcome, Raiders. My name is Ruel Gaviola, and this is Top 383. I'm joined by Mark and Neilan from the Board Game Barrage podcast. We're talking about our top 3 values in board games. So welcome. Hope you're having a good Essen Spiel, a Guten Tag, if that is appropriate. And thank you for joining us. And let's get back to the show here. Whoops, there it is. Hi. Okay.
Hey.
So yeah, so there's the rating hat for y'all.
That's awesome. I love Board Game Staff's work too. So this is an honor. This is great.
Yeah. Board Game Staff's great. So yeah, Mark, I'm totally curious about True Colors. I've never heard of this game, and the way you describe it sounds like it's definitely in my wheelhouse. Okay, let's go. So those are our honorable mentions, folks. Now we're going to get to our top 3 values in board games. I'm going to start. My number 3 top value is Akrotiri. This is a 2-player game from Z-Man Games. It was out of print for a while, and then it's come back into print now. I believe it's $30 list price, but you can probably find it for $20, $25 or whatever online or whatever. And this is, I love this game. It's a tile placement game, but it's unlike any other tile placement game because it's got this like economic thing to it where you're like, fiddling around with the market values of certain resources, and you're trying to be the first to uncover 6 temples, and you're doing that, but it's like a pick up and deliver game, and it's got this market thing. For a 2-player game, $30, I've gotten so much bang out of like my copy. I've played it at least, I don't know, maybe 15 times, and I've loved every game of it. Neilan or Mark, have you ever do you know Akrotiri? Have you played this?
Yeah, I've played it a couple times. I have it in my collection, and I couldn't agree with you more. It's a great one. There's so much to it. You've got like the exploration and the economic engine and all this stuff going on. It's fantastic. I really enjoyed it.
I have it as well. I've not played it more than I think once or twice, but the times I did play it was with someone who was not a big gamer, and it went over fantastically. And that's actually one of the things I would like to say, especially if you have like a non-gaming partner. Akrotiri is such a good introduction to almost like more Euro-y type of mechanics, because it's not that overwhelming. It's more than like an introductory game, but because it's 2-player, you can kind of just work through it together a little bit. And I think the production on the new version is also super solid. This is one of my favorite 2-player games as well.
Nice. Yeah, I have the older edition. So what's the new edition do as far as production? Do they change the size of things or anything? Or?
To be honest, I actually don't know how it looks compared to the original, but it's just, the tiles are just nice and glossy. The wooden pieces just have a nice look to them. Like aesthetically all laid out, it just looked really pretty.
Yeah, it's a beautiful game. Great. So that's my number 3, Akrotiri. Let's move on to Neilan's number 3.
So my number 3 game is a 2-player game as well. This is a dueling card game in the vein of something like a Magic the Gathering, but it's being made as a deck builder. It is Eternal Chronicles of the Throne, and you can get this for I think around $17 depending on where you get it from. I like this game a lot because taking that basic construct of the Magic the Gathering style, I will summon a creature, you will summon a creature, my creature will attack you, and so on. and turning that into a deck builder. So that means that you, at the start of the game, you have this basic deck and you're adding these cards to your deck over the course of the game. It gets rid of some of like the barrier to entry that Magic the Gathering has of having to buy a lot of cards, having to take time to construct decks. And it means that you can just break out this box. And if you have someone that you know that likes that type of game, you can be like, hey, well, here's the simple rule set. Let's play this game. It's going to start with a basic deck. We're going to progress to more bigger creatures, and then you reset the whole thing and start over. It preserves a lot of what I like about those games, you know, attacking creatures, playing spells, building up like your tableau in order to get stronger and stronger. But I just find it so much more rewarding in a time where I frankly cannot deck construct anymore. I cannot collect Magic the Gathering cards. I don't have the time to build decks. So this just felt like a really nice new take on that sort of idea.
Awesome. I have never played this game, but yeah, I'm not the biggest CCG fan. I think that's part of it. Just don't have time to construct decks, and I just know the second I buy something, that's like just a money sink. It's just
sure.
there goes, yeah, there it all goes. So,
well, I mean, from a value for money perspective, like you can't beat having a whole full entire collection of CCG style cards for $70 compared to the hundreds you would spend playing Magic the Gathering. So
exactly, nice, good point. All right, so that's Neilan's number 3. Let's move on to Mark and friends in chat. Thank you again for joining us. And I mean, there's a lot of great suggestions in chat, so we'll get to some of those in just a minute here. But let's move on to Mark's number 3.
Yeah, my number 3 is Race for the Galaxy. This is a game that was new to me. It's been around for a long time, but I just started. I just learned it. Basically, a listener of ours, Todd Koch, is the person who taught me this game. And this is a game that you know, I don't like playing mini games online nowadays, but Race for the Galaxy is one that I absolutely love to play. Not, you know, it plays really quick, which helps a lot, but it's a game where I feel myself like I'm still terrible at it, but I feel myself getting better at it, and I'm excited. It's like I feel excited that I'm sort of like climbing up that learning curve. It's a tableau builder, so you've got and it's sort of the game where, you know, based on the cards that you get, based on the cards that you play, you have to sort of like puzzle out the path to victory. And there's a lot of different ways to sort of like find combos and connections between cards. And it just works so well. I haven't touched the expansions, and I think, you know, I've played it now maybe 30 times, and still feel like a beginner. So, you know, the base box alone, which I think checks in at about $25, is plenty. It's just such a great card game. So yeah, Race for the Galaxy.
Yeah, that's that one. I felt like I've seen that a couple times in chat here. It was either Race or Roll, but I'm a big Roll for the Galaxy fan. I've never played Race, actually. Now
really?
I think about it. Yeah, I've never played it. I played what was the board game version of it that just came out? New
Frontier.
Yeah, that one I liked as well.
Yeah,
and I haven't played Jump Drive yet. That's like the super light, like,
right,
you know, smaller version of it, right?
Yeah. I enjoy Roll for the Galaxy, but for some reason, I played Roll before I played Race, and I liked Roll well enough, but once I played Race, I was sort of hooked. So yeah.
Gotcha. Nice. Yeah. So let's see some comments in chat. I'll just pull out a couple of random ones here. Let's see. Where is this? Whoops. Did I just do it? No, I didn't do that.
I can read it for you.
Oh, okay.
I agree with Mark. Mark's right.
There. Yeah, that's.
I don't know what his number 2 is going to be, but I'm pretty sure he's going to be right about that. Let me see the other ones. Neilan's wrong. Wrong.
Weird.
Yeah.
I'm just taking your word. I can't see chat right now, Mark.
Kellen isn't here. It's more of that. It's a lot of that.
This I like that someone put down viticulture. Oh, thank you, the Thinker Themer. Thank you. Welcome to Kahuna and Bonanza. All terrific values. I don't know if one of those might be on my list or not. We'll find out. But yeah, thank you, Thinker Themer, and thank you, friends in chat. Continue dropping your games in chat. I'm going to go to my number 2, which is actually sort of a cheat. And I mentioned this when the whole Twitter thing was happening last week. But my number 2 is the Castles of Burgundy, the old edition, because you can find this. I picked up mine brand new, like on sale. I think it was Amazon or whatever for like $18, which is a ridiculous price to pay for this game. But you can still find it for, I think, $25, different various online stores. This game, it's a classic Stefan Feld Euro. You're building your little, empire, not empire. What's the, is it your duchy or whatever?
Yeah.
Right. Picking up tiles and rolling dice, but it's not a dice rolling game per se. I mean, you have plenty of ways to mitigate the dice, and you're collecting different sets. Some of them will give you special abilities. Others will give you end game conditions, victory points, and so forth. Classic Euro point salad game, as they call it. I love it. I've always enjoyed it. And I got the new edition and it was fine. I don't know how much it really improved the old edition. So I'm perfectly fine playing the old one for a much at a better price, basically. But any thoughts on Castles Burgundy, Neilan or Mark?
So I've only played this once a long time ago, and to be perfectly honest, I don't remember how strongly I felt about it at all. But one thing I thought was actually interesting is when I was doing the research for the podcast episode we did, I saw that the big box version of the new edition is like $40, which even for me struck me as well. Like, wow, if you're into Castles of Burgundy, then that plus all the expansions still seemed like really, really good value. But yeah, getting the original for $20 is also a steal.
Yeah. And now that you're talking about it, gosh, yeah, $40 is not that bad for all the expansions as well.
Right.
I didn't even realize. For some reason I was assuming it was like $60. I heard big box. I was like, okay, $60, but okay, so I can totally just erase this in either version, folks. Castles Burgundy, totally worth it.
I absolutely love Castles Burgundy. I think it's fantastic. It's got to be my top 3 Felds for sure. And yeah, I haven't. Everybody. It was the sort of the joke. I felt like Castles Burgundy is such a great game, but if they only improve the art, it would be perfect. And then the new version comes out, and the art is met with like sort of lukewarm reviews. So I haven't actually even looked at the new version. But the original is just rock solid. It's a game I could play anytime for sure.
Agreed. And then have y'all played the like the dice version and the card version at all? Or?
Have not, no.
Okay. Yeah, those I think the dice version is like basically the roll and write version of Castles. Okay. It's fine. And the card version is surprisingly like it's another rock solid card game, but it's funny because the card game you'd think it would be a smaller, like take smaller presence on table. It's actually takes way more space than the regular board game.
Oh, really?
Because you're just spread, it's like huge tableaus, like wow, okay, yeah, but it's still good.
I've heard the card game sort of sticks more than you would think to the original game. Like it feels like the original game more than you might imagine. Okay, yeah,
absolutely, yeah. And even the roll and write I was surprised by how much that felt like the original game.
Oh, awesome. That's cool.
Yeah. So that's the number 2. Let's go on to Neilan with his number 2.
Okay, my number 2 pick, again, like I alluded to earlier, Codenames is a really solid pick. So this is an alternative suggestion to Codenames, which is Decrypto. And in some ways, Decrypto is a version of a Codename style game that I sometimes want to play more than I do want to play Codenames these days, only because I've played out Codenames so much. I'd also describe Decrypto as a slightly more complex version of the same idea. So the premise is that you have 4 words on your team that only your team can see. So they're facing towards you, the other team can't see them. And you are given a numeric clue. There might be something like 1, 2, 3. So 3 of those words in a specific order. And you have to come up with clues that will help as the clue giver on your team for a given round. You have to come up with clues that will point your team to the specific word without giving away to the other team what those words are. So you're coming up with inventive ways to kind of talk around those words. And the reason you never want to give those away, because as soon as the other team sort of gets a whiff of what your words are, they get a stab at like being able to guess them. And if they do that, they'll be like halfway towards winning the game. It's kind of like this 2-point system where if you get 2 victories, either through guessing one of the other team's clues or through failing one of your own clues, you're either halfway closer to winning or halfway closer to losing. And the structure of the game gets a lot of guff for being like sort of just like a little bit more complex than it needs to be. But I think once you get past that barrier, it's such an interesting idea. This idea of like, well, you guys can see all the words here, but I still have to talk around them in this weird way so as not to give away information. It's a really cool, clever concept that actually does feel like code breaking, which is like the premise of the game a little bit. Decrypto is an excellent, fantastic, two-team party deduction game.
Nice. So when you all play as the Board Game Barrage podcast and friends, when you play Decrypto, like who is the best clue giver?
That is an interesting question. I mean, it's definitely me. I'm trying to think of like second place, third place. Mark somewhere in the bottom three.
We can all agree on his bottom of the list.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Okay, as long as we're all agreed, Kellen is.
Yeah.
But one of our friends in the group, Dan, does this very clever thing of, and this became one of the expansions make this more of a requirement, but if you can link your clues together creatively, there's always like this fun element of like, oh, these clues actually have like a logical, fun pattern to them. Right. One of the things I thought was cool is that they added in this Laserdisc expansion. They integrated that into the game, that if you start to link your clues together, there's like an additional reward for doing that.
Oh, cool. Yeah, as you saw the comment that I just threw up there, I'm assuming this is Kellen on the Board Game Barrage Twitch.
Yes.
Shout out to Kellen. Thanks for joining us, man. But yeah, great. So yeah, Decrypto, I would definitely choose that over Codenames, just because I think Codenames is a little played out, at least in my group as well. But yeah, let's move on to number 2 for Mark, please.
Yeah. My number 2 is Arboretum. This is my favorite genre of game in general. These are like really tough decisions, card games that have a lot of tough decisions. Arboretum is a game where there are a number of suits. And first of all, the Arboretum theme is like the suits are all different types of trees. So it's a very pretty looking game. But there are a number of suits based on the number of players. And you are scoring at the end of the game for each suit will score you at the end of the game. And the twist is that the only person who's going to score a particular suit is the person who has the most points of that suit in their hand at the end of the game. And your hand never increases. So the number of hands you start with is the number of cards you start with is the number of cards you're going to end with. So there's no accumulating more and more of a certain suit because you know you're going to want to score it. And to make matters worse / more interesting is every suit is only 1 through 8. So it's not like there's a number of cards that you're going to be able to gather. There's only 8 cards of each suit. And again, to make matters even more interesting and more difficult is that when it's your turn, all you're doing is you're playing a card and you're drawing a card, playing a card, and you're discarding a card. And when you discard a card, that card doesn't go into like a discard pile that nobody ever sees again. You discard it into a pile in front of you, and then on somebody on the subsequent player's turns, they can draw their card not from the draw pile, but they can elect to draw it from anybody's discard pile. So it's like you've got these cards. You've only got a few cards in your hand to begin with. Everyone is so valuable because you can either score it or conserve it to be the person to have the most points of a color to score it in the game. And yet you're forced to like discard a card. And it's a game where every single time around when it gets to you, all you want to do is pass. Like you do not want to make that choice. You just want to keep it moving, and because it feels so excruciating. And I just absolutely love it for that.
That game is we call it murder trees because it is ruthless, right? It is
absolutely.
Yes, for such a pretty game, like it's ruthless. There's actually a good point here. I want to. Slackfish says Arboretum has that same Lost Cities discard tension with more than 2 players. Absolutely, 100%.
Yep.
So true. I love Arboretum as well. That's a family favorite here as well. But so we've gone through our honorable mentions 3 and 2. Now we are to the big ones, folks. The number 1 values in board games. I will start before going to our guests here. My number 1 is Targi. This is a worker placement game that's $19.99, $20, folks, and it is a 2-player game that plays. It's all the games I've played. It's never. It's a game that takes 45 to an hour. It is not a light game. It is worker placement, and you're doing this cool little thing where you're placing workers on this. There's a tableau of cards, and you place your workers on the outer edges, and then where those workers intersect, you get another action there. And then after you alternate turns, you place your workers, and then one player takes all their workers off in the order they want. They do the actions. You're collecting resources and trying to build a tableau of cards, right? You're trying to collect. It's like set collection along with worker placement. This is one of those games. It's really, I find it easy to learn and easy to teach, especially new gamers, but there's some meat to it, and there's a lot of meat for $20. And I'm all about, games that give you ton of bang for your buck, and this is one of my favorite for $20. It's Targi, or is it Targi? I don't know if I'm saying it right.
I always say Targi, but
okay,
probably correct. Neilan is our resident pronunciation expert.
Yeah, this one I have no idea. I've always heard it as Targi, but yeah, I'm not sure.
I think Target is probably
Target.
I was gonna say, yeah, it's like Target and Target, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Any thoughts on Targi?
I've not played it. This feels like such a big, a big missing point in like my board game 2-player history, at least, because it's the always consistently the 2-player game that gets recommended to me the most as someone that likes, worker placement in general and those sort of, more Euro-y games. I have to play this. I've not gotten around to it yet.
When we get together to play Sky Tier, Neilan, we'll open it up with a game of Targi.
I love it. Sounds great.
Nice, and it is on Board Game Arena too. If you want to check it out there, they do have a version of it. Of course, I'd rather play the real version, but yeah, as far as 2-player games go, Neilan, do you play a lot of 2-player games? Is that
not as many? I mean, only this year it has been like an increase in the number of 2-player games I've played, but I haven't traditionally played that many.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think Targi is definitely. Two of my favorites are on this list as far as 2 players: Targi and Equitiri. But yeah, that's my number one. Let's move on. And Neilan, you have a number one here.
Okay, my number one game, and whatever my colleague might say in a second, this is actually the number one best game of all time. This is The Resistance. It is my favorite game of all time. It is the best game of all time. This was the game that when I started playing, when I got into the board game scene in a big way about 9 years ago, this was the game that really made me think like, oh my God, board games are like something new and different from what I thought they were. Because, I had played games like, Mafia, like the bigger style of big party games, but Resistance, like taking that into a format that eliminates player elimination and takes it down to about an hour and just felt like a slightly different, more very intimate experience. This is my favorite social deduction game. It has a rules simplicity to it that I think a lot of social deduction games that have followed on from it sort of get away from by adding layers of complexity to it. And I think that the exact balance of the hidden roles in the game, having, in the case of Avalon, having Merlin, having the assassin, I know something about you, you know something about me, and we're going to sort of try work around that information in a way without giving away what we know about each other. I think it's still just so perfect. I have probably played The Resistance more than any other game I own. I played versions of this online where my play count goes into the hundreds, literally. And this is the game that I break out with people that I don't know all that well in big settings the most. It is fantastic. It is still my favorite game. And you can have it for $15, which, I mean, just purely from the perspective of how many times I've played it, how much time I've gotten out of it versus that amount of money is unbeatable, frankly.
And I love that it's $15 and you got tons of plays. Like I used to do this thing where I would think about, okay, how much did I spend how much money I spent for this game and how many times I've played it, and then sort of do the quick math in my head. Very simple math because I suck at math. But how much did it cost me to play this game? So if I played a $15 game once, it cost me $15. If I played it 10 times, now it's only $1.50 or whatever, right? So $1.50 per play, right? So I'm gonna be honest, I'm not the biggest social deduction fan, but the times I played Resistance Avalon were fantastic. They were a lot of fun, and maybe it's because the reason for you said it, the rule set was really simple. There weren't those added layers, of complexity. So maybe that's why I enjoyed that game as compared to I wasn't a fan of other social deduction games. So
yeah, it strips out some of the elements of so I feel like a lot of more modern social deduction games add layers of randomness on top of it, and I feel like the Resistance gets away with a lot of that, where you can actually have a more solid base to make deductions from.
Yeah. Have you played The Search for Planet X?
You know what? I have that, but I haven't played it yet. I need to because it also seems way up my alley.
I think that'd be your jam for sure. That it was, it's pure deduction, but it's like a better version of Clue, and it's it's pure deduction, but it's not. There isn't that random, silliness or whatever. But I mean, I love the theme as well. I mean, you're searching for the Planet X, and you feel like a scientist because you have your little paper and you can take notes and stuff. Yeah,
that sounds great. Yeah, I need to get around to that.
Absolutely. Okay, so last but certainly not least, and there was no surprises here, but I'm going to leave it to
There might be a surprise.
Mark for number one. There might be a surprise, folks. So your number one value in board games, Mark.
All right, I'm not bringing this dog in to curry any favor. I'm just happening to.
It's too late now. You've curried all the favor.
There
Mark.
you go. My number one is well, look, I mean, I'm surrounded by it. What could I do but select? Here you go, right there. I got the Polish version. I got the English version. It's Biblios. Biblios, my number one game of all time. It's got. I mean, you want to talk about packed, loaded up. It's got the auction mechanic. It's got drafting. It's got push your luck. It's got hand management. It's got set collection. It's got everything in a super small package. 45 minutes. It's just got it all. I mean, it's just everything you need in one package. Biblios. It's all you need. It's all you need. And $15-$20. It's a value at 5 times the price. If you had to blow your entire budget on Biblios, you would have enough to be satisfied because you've got everything in there. So
awesome. Yeah. When I sent out the invite to you guys and I said, okay, what are your top values? I thought, okay, I know what I'm putting for number one for Mark. I already had it typed out, ready, set.
Right.
Mark, you have the different versions. I've only played the English version. Is there any differences besides language in the other?
No,
versions?
they both are equally as thematically rich. So no, they're just, you can't really alter perfection. When you've got perfection, you can't really, make it more perfect. So, no, it's the same thing, just different letters.
Nice. Now, Neilan, what are your thoughts on Biblios? I'm sure you've shared this many times before.
I think it's trash. No. I genuinely actually quite like Biblios. Like, I actually think it made my top 50 last year. It kind of just slipped off in the most recent one we did. But I mean, it's close to being in my top 50. I actually genuinely think it's an excellent game, and a game that, especially for the price and especially for how easily you can introduce it to people and how tense those auctions get, especially when you're playing with Mark, it's excellent.
Yeah, I always look at it like it's the next step for sale. The game for sale. It's
exactly.
like the next step, right?
That's a great comparison.
Thanks. It's a lot of fun. I enjoy it. I actually traded for it at Strategicon. I don't know who traded it, Mark, but I got it at Strategicon, man. So
crazy.
So someone doesn't know what they're trading and what they were trading off. But anyways, I want to thank you both again. Much appreciated. I really appreciate you spending the time and talking about the best values in board games. Where can people find you on the interwebs?
They can find us at boardgamebarrage.com or wherever you download your podcasts. We're at Board Game Barrage. You can follow me on Twitter at Mark Besada. So that's at MarkBesada. If you want to all things Liverpool and LA sports and Biblios and board games.
I'm on Twitter at Neilan, so Neilan. And I think the other thing I want to say is that part of the growing community of Board Game Barrage is our Discord community, which if you want to join in and just talk to a bunch of fans about board games, that's boardgamebarrage.com/Discord. And we'd love to have you there.
Awesome. All right. So on behalf of Neil and Mark, I want to thank everyone in chat for hanging out. Much appreciated. Mark's got the Biblios dice, so I know he's ready to play it. Friends, have a great day, and we will see you later. Take care now.
Dodgers.
Bye, everybody.
Go Dodgers.